In October of 2023, Morocco agreed to join Spain and Portugal in co-hosting the 2030 World Cup. But there's a problem. Both Spain and Morocco want to host the final, an honor that demands a stadium with at least 80,000 seats, something that Morocco doesn't have. Yet. In a bid to outdo the Spanish, construction has begun on a stadium that won't just be the largest in Morocco or even in all of Africa, but the largest on Earth. Hey, I'm your host Regis, and today we'll be looking at the construction of the Hassan II Stadium, its sleek design, its logistical challenges, and some of the controversy that surrounds it. But first, why is hosting the World Cup such a big deal for Morocco? Well, because it's long overdue. In 1994, the country put in its first bid to host the World Cup, losing 7 votes to 10 to the United States. They tried again 4 years later, this time losing out to France, before missing out again in both 2006 and 2010. And the failure didn't stop there either. In fact, it would come full circle during the 2026 bid, where they once again lost out to the United States and its neighbors, leaving Morocco with more failed World Cup bids than any other country not named Germany. Still, their persistence paid off, finally securing a co-hosting role with Spain and Portugal for the 2030 World Cup. But why so many rejections? Well, it certainly wasn't for a lack of football talent. The national team made its official debut in 1957, just 1 year after gaining independence from France and Spain. In 1970, it became the first African team to qualify for the World Cup through the standard qualification process. In 1986, it became the first African team to reach the group stage, but it wasn't until the most recent 2022 World Cup in Qatar that people really started paying attention, when the team made it all the way to the semi-finals. But FIFA doesn't really care about a team's skill or a nation's passion. They care about infrastructure and logistics. And the nation faces plenty of problems in both camps. For one, Morocco relies almost entirely on the Mohammed V International Airport in Casablanca as the only major point of entry for a tournament. This heavy dependence means that any disruption, from technical failures to bad weather, could seriously throw off the flow of fans, teams, and officials arriving for a tournament. Morocco has already made progress through a few infrastructure projects. One example being the 2018 Al Barak high-speed rail, which saw significantly reduced travel times between major cities like Tangier, Rabat, and Casablanca. Yet, despite these advancements, the current internal transport network is still pretty limited, with several host cities lacking robust urban transportation systems, such as extensive bus, rapid transit, or metro lines, which makes traveling between venues a nightmare for fans. But fear not, steps have been taken to ensure a smooth experience ahead of the 2030 tournament. In 2024, the government announced plans to expand airport capacity, promising to double passenger capacity at key hubs like Casablanca, Marrakech, and Agadir. They also promised to extend the country's high-speed rail network to better connect major cities and key World Cup venues. Thankfully, all of Morocco's chosen venues already have functional stadiums, but the country wants to take it a step further by hosting the World Cup final. FIFA's guidelines state that the World Cup final must take place in a stadium with at least 80,000 seats. And up to this point, it was assumed that the final would take place in Spain, more specifically in the Bernabeu Stadium. But Morocco has an ace up its sleeve, the Hassan II, a 115,000-seat super stadium that's projected to be the largest in the world. The stadium is being built here, 38 kilometers north of Casablanca, on a 100-hectare site in the town of El Mansouriya. It's a great location, resting between the country's busiest airport and the nation's capital, making travel to the stadium pretty simple. The architectural vision is clear. Take the design sensibilities of modern European stadiums and infuse it with a nod to Moroccan culture. And nowhere is that design philosophy more apparent than the aluminum lattice roof, which bears a resemblance to the Olympia Park Stadium in Munich. Only here, the roof surrounds the entire stadium, drawing inspiration from the tents of the nomadic Moroccan tribes for the perfect blend of old and new. A ring of 32 stairways upholds the roof's bold design, providing essential support while maintaining its overall aesthetic. Beautiful botanical gardens will be placed both under the see-through roof and on the ground, enhancing the urban space and adding a touch of color as well. As well as the enormous capacity for general spectators, the stadium will boast 5 levels of hospitality, including VIP sections, luxury boxes, and a special royal suite for an extra premium experience. Of course, this wasn't the original design. Over the last 15 years, multiple architecture firms have had a crack at designing Casablanca's new mega stadium. In 2010, the French architecture firm SCAU showcased their vision, which featured curved panels that encased the entire arena. When that was canceled, the Spanish firm Cruz and Ortiz shared their design that had a sleek aerodynamic roof, similar to their work on the Riyadh Air Metropolitano Stadium in Spain. In the end, the privilege to design the massive stadium would be shared by 2 companies, Populous and Oualalou plus Choi. The first company, Populous, is well known, as they also worked on the Las Vegas Sphere and countless other state-of-the-art stadiums around the world. For example, the Wembley Stadium in London and the Yankee Stadium in New York. But enough about them. Okay, back to the Hassan II Stadium. Since it's such a huge project and there are only 5 years until the event, what's the construction timeline looking like? Well, the stadium is expected to be completed by 2028, meaning they have just over 3 years to finish the project. Construction began in August of 2024, with the entire site being walled off from the general public. It's still early days in terms of construction, but satellite imaging of the site shows just how massive the Hassan II Stadium is going to be. The initial groundwork looked more like the early stages of a terraformed Mars than a construction site. It's not until we overlay the satellite imaging with the proposed architectural designs that things become a lot clearer. As you can see, the giant mound of earth in the center will be the site of the stadium, with space for lush gardens surrounding it. Whether they meet the proposed finish date is a question that's yet to be answered. Which leads to yet another question. Who is paying for all of this? Well, let's take a look at the costs. The Hassan II Stadium is expected to cost 5 billion Moroccan dirhams, or 500 million US dollars. Of course, the costs don't end there. Morocco will also need to upgrade their 6 other World Cup stadiums, bringing the total cost up to 25 billion Moroccan dirhams. Then there's the cost of other infrastructure promises that Morocco has made to FIFA, which include expanding airports and extending the high-speed rail network, which bring the total cost of the World Cup to roughly 52 billion Moroccan dirhams. That's around $5.2 billion. The government has allocated around $2.5 billion towards the project, but the remaining $2.7 billion will need to be acquired through a mix of domestic and international loans. The African Development Bank has pledged $650 million to make the event happen, but we can't yet say where the rest of the money will come from. Perhaps China will lend a hand. After all, the nation's no stranger to investing in the continent's love of sports, but it remains to be seen whether or not they'll get involved here. Beyond just the monetary cost of the project, we need to calculate what the human cost might be. The Moroccan government promises that thousands of jobs will be created, both during construction and long after the final whistle, aiming to inject new life into Casablanca and spark widespread economic development. But while these promises sound like a beacon of progress, the stadium's construction could also cast a shadow. Critics have already drawn uncomfortable parallels to past megaprojects. Notably, the stadiums built for Qatar's World Cup, where the labor conditions of migrant workers came under intense scrutiny. Morocco, being a transit point for African immigrants on their way to Europe, may convince some of these immigrants to work on their construction sites. Whether or not they'll actually suffer from hazardous working conditions, especially given the short construction timeline, remains to be reported on, though. Then there's the issue of potential sports washing, a tactic that, whether intentionally or not, uses the spectacle of sport to polish up a nation's international image by diverting attention away from less savory domestic policies. In Morocco's case, there are articles about the government seeking to divert attention away from Western Sahara, which it has controversially occupied since 1975, despite resistance from the indigenous Sahrawi people. But even if the nation is able to avoid these ethical pitfalls, what does it even do with the stadium after the World Cup? Well, the current plan is for Hassan II to replace Stade Mohammed V as the home ground for two of the country's top clubs, Raja CA and Wydad AC. But neither of these teams bring in enough fans to really make it worth it long term, with one source suggesting that Raja CA has an average home league attendance of just 15,038, about 13% of the mega stadium's capacity. But there are other options as well. With its state-of-the-art design and immense capacity, the venue is perfectly suited to host international concerts, cultural festivals, and large-scale public gatherings. The stadium could also just be used for other sports. Regardless, it's clear that they're taking a massive risk here, as they're building this huge project without certainty about its future. So, fingers crossed that this project doesn't become a white elephant. But what do you think? Will Morocco actually host the final? And what are your thoughts on the design of the stadium? Well, let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure that you're subscribed to MegaBuilds. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.